In this episode, we're going to talk about some forgotten 90s monster cartoons. And yeah, that's right, I did this. So stick around. Hello, fellow dorks and dorkettes. My name's Rob, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. In this episode, we're going to talk about some forgotten 90s monster cartoons. And yeah, I'm doing this because the whole term of forgotten, I don't think applies to people like us, that nostalgia just runs through our veins. And we may need help remembering, but they're truly never forgotten. So you only add forgotten to get extra views. Never mind. Anyway, this is the second time I've shot this video. My mic went out on the fritz and ran out of power, so none of the audio was picked up. And all today I've been running around trying to find the proper battery for it. Went on eBay, ordered it, and then found out the instruction manual was all wrong and it's rechargeable. So we're recharged and ready to go. And can't cancel my Amazon order, so yay! Anyway, other than that, feeling good. Listened to a bunch of Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer before I started, so yeah, I'm feeling pretty good.
Feel pretty good. I'm not scared at all. I just feel kind of invincible. Me too.
Anyway, back to the task at hand, and that is forgotten 90s monster cartoons. And what better way to start than with number one, and that is Gravedale High. First released on NBC in 1990, Rick Moranis' Gravedale High was made by Hanna-Barbera and ran for 13 episodes. And when you put the name Rick Moranis at the front of it, you're going to get some attention. I remember watching this show, and even back then, and now, I'm still in awe that an actor of that caliber lent his voice to this cartoon. Let's be honest here for a second. I sat through a couple episodes of this before doing the footwork on this list, and yeah, unfortunately it suffers from the Hanna-Barbera tropes that we all know and love. I mean, it even has a rickety old cat and a Quasimodo type of rat that he chases around just to get that old school type of humor out of it. Anyway, what better way to discuss this show than to actually go over the characters themselves? Because in all honesty, there's really not that much to talk about. So, here we go. Okay, to kick it off, first we have Rick Moranis playing Max Schneider. He is the only human teacher in an all-monster high school. Now, what's great about his character is he is the moral compass of the show. He's the one that is nurturing and kind of nudging these kids in the directions that they need to go in a very heavy-handed Hanna-Barbera style. So kudos to him. And with this being 1990, there might have been a reason that he was doing the voice for this show, because his wife was suffering from cancer at the time, and she would unfortunately pass away in 1991. So maybe this was his way of still working while still having the freedom to care for her and his kids. But yeah, poor dude, and yeah. The next character is Reggie, and he's the resident werewolf of the school. And he is the stereotypical nerd. He is super smart, super geeky, and he even has like a bat-shaped laptop. In 1990, that's pretty awesome. But not very stereotypical. He's a good guy of the class, and bonus points, he was actually voiced by the dude that did Donatello in the TMNT cartoon. So that's super awesome. Next we have Sid, the Invisible Kid. And as his name says, he is the Invisible Man's kid. And he's the class clown, which psychologically it's because people don't see him, so he has to make them see him with humor. And he's actually voiced by the voice actor that did Brain on Pinky and the Brain from Animaniacs. One thing that impressed me about the voice actor is he does a lot of impressions. And that's the thing about the character of Sid. His humor is impression based because he wants to be a stand-up comic, so he's doing stand-up comic voices, which I feel like is humor that would have been over a lot of kids' heads at the time. I mean, I was a teenager and watching it, and by this time I was already renting Best of SNL, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, even Gallagher VHS tapes. I'd be renting them on the weekends. But within a single episode, he did Rodney Dangerfield, Robin Williams, Billy Crystal as the "You Look Marvelous" character from Saturday Night Live, Michael Jackson. I mean, some of them, by 1990, I guess Michael Jackson was still popular, because I think Bad came out around that time. But the jokes were aimed more at early 80s Michael Jackson. But anyway, that's that character. And next is Blanche. And she's a voodoo priestess, witch, something, maybe? I can't really tell. But she's your typical straight character that good at school, friends with everybody, just seems to be the all-around American girl. And she's actually voiced by Sherry Belafonte, which that name jumped out at me because that was a big personality in the 80s. I mean, she was an actress, a spokesmodel, made all the talk show circuit stuff, and she's daughter to Harry Belafonte. So I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of on the nose with casting, with, being Caribbean in descent, but oh well. Next is another voice actor that really shocked me, and that is Gil, who's like the swamp monster character, swamp creature, creature from the Black Lagoon even, and he was voiced by Jackie Earle Haley. Yeah, this is years and years and years before he did Little Children, which got his name back on the map, Watchmen, Freddy Krueger, which we won't even mention, but he had a big gap before this and after this. I mean, before this, he was most famous for Bad News Bears. So, he does his best impersonation of Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I mean, totally humor over kids' heads, but he always has the munchies, always wants to go surfing, loves skateboarding, and is just always the dude type of character. He's a fun character. Of course, everyone likes him. He's just an all-around good dude. Next is Duzzer, which is the weirdest name, but she is a Medusa. And for someone that has living snakes for hair, this seemed to be one of the blandest characters in what I saw. She's your typical Valley Girl-esque, oh, I hope so-and-so likes me. She has crush on the popular vampire character, which we'll get into in just a second. And yeah, just kind of a bland character, which, I mean, we're talking about Hanna-Barbera cartoon. I shouldn't be searching too deeply into it. Next is popular, all-around, awesome vampire dude, Vinny Stoker. Like Bram Stoker. And if there are people doing impressions, this dude either is a sweat hog, an extra in Grease, or wants to be the Fonz when he grows up. It seems so out of place in 1990 to have a greaser-esque character. I mean, always combing his hair and, hey, teach! Hey! That type of character. And to still be super popular. I mean, everyone else has a very contemporary stereotype, but his being 50s, early 60s, Shana Na type of stereotype. I don't get it. I thought that was super weird, but anyway. Next is a character I hated in 1990, and I can proudly say I hate in 2020, and that is Frankentyke. This is the pipsqueak version of Frankenstein's monster, and if anything, he'd be the bully of the school. He always pulling pranks, always threatening violence. He's just a little dickhead, and he's just, I can't stand him. Couldn't stand him then, can't stand him now. That's all I'm talking about. Next is another more popular actress doing a voice in the show, and it's Ricki Lake, and she has done Hairspray by now, and has become a household name. Unfortunately, she's playing a mummy character named Cleopatra. Yeah, Fatra. Now that's a negative stereotype, and especially for that actress who we know has struggled with her weight in the past, so yeah. I mean, of course at this time she wasn't struggling with it, she was living with it, but yeah. Not that cool. The character wasn't even that cool from what I saw. Yeah. Next is the character J.P. Gasly III. And this Gomez Adams looking Renfield-esque character is your rich dude. He's always talking about money. He's always looking at the stock market. Always talking about how he can help the others make money. And I think that's interesting to put that type of character in that kind of financial situation. That's the only thing I found interesting about him. Yeah, but like I said, heavy-handed morals in the Hanna-Barbera style. Very strong voice cast. Had some really funny moments, but all in all, I can understand why it's forgotten. Now, I'm always horrible with these lists because I don't put them in any order whatsoever. Just as they pop into my head, they go on the list, and that's the number that they stay. So, this cartoon should be number one on my list. It should be number one on everybody's list of just awesome 90s cartoons. And that is Mummies Alive. Mummies Alive ran in syndication in 1997. And it was made by Deke. Yeah, that Deke. And ran for 42 episodes. Now, Deke, they had a lot of great cartoons, but unfortunately in the G.I. Joe community, they get a big black mark because of what they did to G.I. Joe with their cartoon when they took it from Sunbow. But we won't talk about that. What we're going to talk about is how great this cartoon was. It takes a lot of inspiration and formula beats from Gargoyles, which came out in '94, so 3 years before this. But it's the same type of setup. You have an ancient sect of warriors that are put into a hibernative, and in this case, dead state. And they wake up in today's world and need to continue with their warrior's journey. Yeah, I know that sounds a lot more grandiose than it is, but yeah, when you're older and watching this, you get these feelings more than you did as a kid. I mean, but in '97 I was 21, so I wasn't a kid then either. Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, now what the plot is that back in Egyptian times there was the pharaoh's seer, his chancellor, if you will, named Scarab. And he was evil, big shocker with a name like Scarab, and he pretty much killed the pharaoh's son. When the son died, his protectors, which are the mummies now, pretty much killed themselves, put themselves in sarcophaguses to wait. And fast forward to 1997, when this little boy who has a striking resemblance to the pharaoh's son and may actually be incarnated or reincarnated in some way, shape, or form runs into trouble and they are reborn. They burst out of the sarcophaguses, and instantly in the first episode you see what their powers are. And that it's... Oh, excuse me. Oddly, I think I burped at the exact same moment in the episode I shot last night that I'm reshooting now. Weird. Anyway, they get this mythical, magical armor on them, and you had characters Jaquel, that was the falcon, Wrath, who is the snake, Amon, who is the ram, and Nefertina, who is the cat. And their armor is awesome when it's on them. They look awesome. Great powers, just a great setup. And like I said, it follows the Gargoyles formula, so you know you can't go wrong with that. Now, Scarab also gets cool armor that puts on... He gets magically put on him with wings and extra arms and just big, bulky, beetle-like armor. And he actually has a limitless gang of animated, sandstone warriors that are just the best fodder for the mummies to take out. They slice them in half. The snake dude's head turned into a snake and he bit one's head off. I mean, just awesome. Another awesome thing about this cartoon was the toys. And believe me, you can find these really cheap on eBay. And they're great. They hold up today, I assume. Looking at them, they just look still great. I tell you what, I'm going to try to find some and start collecting them. And try to get Mummies Alive on DVD. Or Blu-ray, or whatever. But to be honest, all the episodes are on YouTube, put out by their new distributor, Wild Brain, and you can watch them, guilt-free because they're legal, and it's awesome. I recommend everybody do that because it is a great show. The animation holds up, it looks beautiful, the story has held up. The few episodes that I saw, the humor didn't seem too cringy. Check it out. It's a great show. Sadly, it's number 2 on my list for no reason whatsoever. Anyway, number 3. Real Monsters. This show ran on Nickelodeon for 4 seasons and gave us 52 episodes. Sorry, I had to look at my notes at the same time. It started running in 1994, and out of all the things on this list, this one had the biggest marketing push. It had a great toy line. It was on backpacks, school supplies, party supplies. I mean, it was reminiscent of the 80s when they would make a huge marketing push. But when you have Nickelodeon behind it, and it was a popular show by a popular team that just came off of a big success such as Rugrats, yeah, I'm surprised that this show isn't talked about more today. It had great humor and a great story. And I have to be honest here for a second. When I first saw the trailers for Monsters, Inc. way back in the day, I thought it was totally ripping off this show. I mean, Pixar didn't, and yeah, the rest is history. But the story was about 3 students in a scare school that were just trying to live their lives and be kids and still scare people. So, I mean, it had a timeless story device of just their kids trying to be kids. But, running into the opposition of teachers and principals and school obligations. I mean, like I said, it was kind of timeless. But anyway, the 3 main characters were Ickis, Oblina, and Crumb. And I'm sure when you see them, you would remember them. I mean, Ickis looked like a little red gremlin type of character. Oblina was this long black and white worm-looking thing with arms and legs. And then Crumb was the dude that held his eyes in his hand and had, underarm hair going crazy everywhere. And he was more like the comic relief. I mean, they were all funny in their own way, but Oblina was like the straight person of the group trying to keep the other 2 in tow. And their principal was the Grumble, very reminiscent of the meanies from the Beatles' Yellow Submarine cartoon. But the biggest person on the voice cast and one of the best characters was Zimbo, who is voiced by Tim Curry. The only other notable famous voice cast, there was a character called Simon the Monster Hunter, and he was voiced by Jim Belushi. Like I said, this show had a great toy line to it. They made a lot of the background monsters and stuff, and they look great. And they would look great on your shelf today. I'm definitely going to start the hunt up for those and the Mummies Alive figures. Number 4 on the list, I'm not going to give a lot of time to because it really wasn't that great of a cartoon, and that is Darkstalkers. Based on the Capcom video game, this cartoon was very loosely based. It was missing a lot of the big grandiose story beats that the video game had. Of course, the violence, the sexuality, all of that were gone. Rightfully so. But anyway, it ran in syndication for 13 episodes in 1995. And, yeah. Instead of watching a half an hour of that, play half an hour of the video game and just have a great time. Anyway, now before we jump into number 5 on the list, I want to talk about what would have been number 6 on the list that I took off. Number 6 would have been Skeleton Warriors. Yes, the show heavily featured monsters as the skeletons. But the one thing I noticed while watching the episodes, this show took a lot of beats from Masters of the Universe. I mean, set on an alien planet with its own rules and history and mythos and just awesomeness. And it just didn't feel right including it on a list of monster cartoons. It feels more like it should be on sci-fi cartoons or just epic cartoons or something of the like. So it just didn't feel at home with some of the other things on this list. It's a great cartoon. It needs to be talked about. But I'll save that for another day. Because, sorry, I need to fix my ears here. Because, yeah, it just seems like they were really shooting for the stars with that cartoon. Like I said, to be like the next Masters of the Universe. And it had some great toys like Masters of the Universe. But anyway, number 5 on the list is nothing like that. And that is Monster Force. Monster Force ran in syndication in 1994 for 13 episodes. And was made by Universal Cartoons, which is Universal Studios, which owns the rights to the Universal Monsters. So this was their way of bringing the Universal Monsters to the modern era of 1994 in one of the weirdest ways possible. This show featured college kids tackling the creatures of the night, as they were called, in a distant future, which happened to be 2020. So, welcome to the world of Monster Force. If you're unhappy, that's why. But anyway, yeah. It featured toys that were made by Playmates, but unfortunately this is the Playmates that wasn't Ninja Turtles, but more Wildcats, where they were sculpted in poses already and just hard to stand up and to play with because they're always looking like they're running, so you can't have a conversation because they're like, yeah, I'm on my way to go buy some milk. What can I help you with? No, I can't put my arms down. What's up? Okay, cool. Now, the cartoon. I saw some of it. The animation wasn't that great. The storyline wasn't that great. It just wasn't very strong at all. Now, just to break down how the teams were, I'm going to consult my phone because their aliases they go by are priceless. So let me grab my phone here, which is almost dead, unfortunately, and look up Monster Force. Bear with me. So, okay, I explained the gist. And the leader of this ragtag group of college kids is Dr. Reed Crawley, alias Doc. Now, I guess they went with Crawley because it sounds like Crowley. I don't know. But he's a young yet brilliant scientist. Next, Luke Talbot, alias the Wolfman. Now, he was one of the creatures of the night that were a good guy. You know, and affected by lycanthropy and all that good stuff. Next, Trip Hansen, alias martial artist. Can you guess what he did? Yeah, martial arts. Next, Lance McGruder, alias Powerhouse Marksman. And he's their sniper. I think with the name Powerhouse Marksman, he'd be also chucking cars at people. Next is Shelley Frank, alias the Psychic. And the last member of the team is Frankenstein, alias the Monster. And this is Frankenstein's monster that had joined the team of anything in a bodyguard / mascot kind of way. You have the bad guys, Dracula, alias Prince of Darkness. He's the main villain. Creature from the Black Lagoon, alias the Creature, who has an awesome toy in the Playmates line. Hotep, the Mummy. Niles Lupin, alias Bella, the werewolf, so another werewolf. And the Bride is a female monster created by Dr. V. Frankenstein. So they kind of had to extreme his name up. Don't call him Victor, call him V. Anyway, sorry to just rag on this show. Easily, I can see why it was forgotten. So this one doesn't get a it was forgotten because it's not that good. I know I talk glowingly about a lot of dumb things, but I couldn't because I was really excited. I don't remember seeing this at all when it originally aired. Reading what it was about, I'm like, dude, this is going to be awesome. And it wasn't. So my disappointment is making me a little bit of a grump about it. So I apologize. But anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new around here, please subscribe if you like this or any of the episodes that are recommended down here. And if you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them and I love getting back to everybody. So, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad and stay dorky.